The second thing that we're going to talk about is shorelines and estuaries. The first one we're going to talk about is specifically to shorelines, okay? What happens to shorelines when we actually see an increase in temperature within the oceans is that, number one, sea life. Sea life is very intelligent, and there's many accounts in which you have tsunamis taking place in oceans where you find very few animals have actually perished or died because of that type of event, because they know that something's happening and they adjust to it. And exactly what happens in the oceans. Sea life adjusts and starts to move to regions which are cooler. Now granted, if you're dealing with a fish, as an example, that loves to be in warmer water, what you've now done is you've actually allowed the web and the space in which that fish can live and have a habitat in to expand, which is great for that fish. But for those other types of species that do not like warmer water, they have to move to a place that's a little bit cooler so that they can have a habitat which they can survive in. That affects the food web. And not only affects the food web, not only for the species in the ocean or maybe those that use the ocean as a place to go get their food, including humans, it affects the economy. You're talking about, fishing industry. You have The Deadliest Catch, which is a popular show on Discover that it seems to be growing with every year. There's more people watching it. And what they have found, and as if you watched last season, they're starting to have to take their ships and move more north. They're actually going to places that they've never fished before on the show because there has been a little bit of a difference in the actual temperature of the ocean, which those types of species that they are fishing for are very inclined to have to adjust to survive. What also happens is that you get warmer oceans that lead to higher sea levels. Now, why does that happen? Melting ice, it would be one example where you have, ice which is on land which then goes in. That could be one example. But second is, you're talking about icebergs. And we'll talk about how icebergs and with them melting when they're already in the water doesn't really lead to an increase in the water level. But that will be done in one of your labs, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But nonetheless, okay, with that, also keeping in mind, what happens when shorelines are impacted? They're impacted because you get more frequent, powerful storms. And what causes those storms is when the ocean temperatures go up. Because, take for example, hurricanes. Hurricanes need temperatures of water to be 80 degrees Fahrenheit or above. You're talking about an ocean, which is a ton of water in a particular area that has to get to 80 degrees Fahrenheit and sustain that temperature for upwards, I believe it is 300 feet in depth. So the other thing that happens is you get beach and bluff erosions because of these warmer waters. What happens is when water gets warmer, it starts to expand, which not only because of expansion, you also get a rise in sea level because you have that melting of ice that goes into the water. Coastal erosion. I want you to take a look at this. I found this on YouTube, and it's quite amazing. It's about a month, just over a month, and I want you to watch how the oceans has completely wiped out this particular bluff coastal line area. Okay, so we'll stop it right there, and you can see what's left of it. Let's go back to the very beginning. And there it is. You see what's there now, and then you go all the way up ahead, and you see what's there. It's quite amazing, and this all happened in just less than 1 month. And at this particular place, they were recording the temperature every single day as to what was happening. So if you want to watch this, hit rewind and watch it again. You can see at the very bottom how you have temperature and also the date and time in which these things were taken, these snapshots, to kind of record exactly what was physically taking place. I thought it was pretty cool because there's an example exactly how warmer oceans can actually cause erosion to take place, and that's just in the particular area in the world. Those erosions are taking place all the time anywhere where the ocean is coming in contact with our coast, our shoreline areas. So estuaries, okay? So now we're into a different topic, but it's still, it's still the same idea, is warmer oceans affecting our estuaries. The habitats. where animals and species live, because the temperature is changing, it's causing those habitats to also change as well. And when temperatures change, as we are even witnessing even in Michigan, we have seen an increase in the amount of invasive species, plants and also animals that have come into our area because, well, the changing climate, even if it's 1 degree, has altered the habitat, and different species are looking for different homes because of that. So along with that, the change in the pH level, what's called ocean acidities, is also being affected. And every time the ocean's acidity and the pH level changes, that also affects any plants and any specific animals that are in those particular regions, because, again, it's affecting the food web, whether or not they can actually live and survive in that environment. So if the pH level and the acidity level is changing, well, so are the habitat. So is the habitat, the things that are living in that particular area, because they cannot survive. The third thing is the shorelines are going to be pushed back. So if you have an estuary, which is in a low-lying area right along the shoreline, and it starts to get wiped out, like you saw that YouTube video where it just completely disappears, you no longer have a place to live, especially if that was your shoreline. Now, you may say, oh, why don't you just move back to the edge? Okay, you could do that, but you don't know exactly when it's going to stop. So a lot of times these things don't have a place to live, and they just move on and to go find a new habitat to live in. The second thing that they can do is they can always move to a higher elevation. But again, not knowing that that's going to be safe depending on where that higher elevation is located and what's happening with the actual temperatures in the ocean. The third thing we're going to talk about, and actually it's the fourth because you throw estuaries in there, is oceanic algae growth. And what happens with oceanic algae growth is it's very important to the oceans because of photosynthesis. It plays a huge role in photosynthesis within the actual ocean, and more specifically to coral reefs and their survival within the oceans. So what happens is algae shares food with coral. They actually link to one another, and you'll see a video coming up in the next couple days about where you will see an image where you see coral attaching itself, or algae attaching itself to coral, and they work with one another until the temperatures of the oceans change and become warmer. The algae dies when the temperatures it goes up and it increases, or the coral has to release it and let it go. And when that takes place, you then begin a process which is referred to as coral bleaching. Coral bleaching occurs when algae is living within the actual reef, and it is expelled, it dies off, it is released. And it's because there is an increase in temperature. There's a stress level that is put on it. And what happens is anytime there's a temperature change of just even 1 or 2 or 3 degrees Fahrenheit, or even go Celsius, which is even greater than Fahrenheit, when that happens, you're looking at a significant change in the habitat around the reefs themselves. So when you hear, or maybe you have heard somebody talking about reefs dying, they are starting to find more reefs which are going through this. They actually are becoming bleached. They're turning white. And the reason for that is the algae has been expelled, it's died off, it's been released, and the warmer temperatures are not allowing for photosynthesis to take place, which then causes it to bleach itself out, directly linked to the temperatures of the ocean.